Hello, everybody. It is great to be here one more time today. My name is Gary Fowler, and I am the CEO, president, and co-founder of GSD Get Shit Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in the heart of Silicon Valley. We love artificial intelligence and quantum computing, and we believe that intellectual capacity is evenly spread around the world, but opportunities are not. And with that, I'd like to introduce my incredible guest, Keven Gayle. Keven is a principal partner at ARC Advisory. The best workplace in G2 Advisory have joined forces to create ARC. His focus is on growth strategies and transition management. His clients include small-size IT firms, medical practices, educational institutions, real estate services, retail, manufacturing, and financial services. Well, I think that's just about everything. So with that, I'd like to bring Keven on board. Hi, Keven. How are you doing today?
Good morning. How are you doing, Gary? Thank you.
Great. Fantastic. So I've got a question for you. Let's go down through and talk about, so originally, are you from Canada originally, or where are you from?
So I was born in Jamaica and then emigrated to Canada when I was around 10 and lived in Canada, became a Canadian citizen. My dad lived the immigrant story, brought me up, and lived there all the way until I was 20, so for about 25 years until I was about 34, 35, and then I emigrated to the US. So the US is now the third country that I've lived in my lifetime. It won't be the last, but the third.
So I got a question for you. Why in the world would you go from Jamaica, where it's warm, to Canada? Did you say I want to be, see the snow, or what happened?
You know what? Like the immigrant story, right? It's about opportunity. And I think that the best thing that you say is that intellectually spread equally around the world, but opportunity is not. And so my father saw that he would be able to get to Canada and have a better life for us. So he made the hard trek, sacrifice, and got there. And he did it. He built a successful company in Canada. And so he brought us up. And that was it. But I agree with you. The weather was a huge transition, and that's why I moved back south. So I went from some deep south to straight north, and now I'm back in the middle again because I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. So definitely, being cold in Canada was not.
I remember going up to Canada one time, actually to Calgary.
Oh.
And I'd never been. I'm from Pennsylvania, but we don't have things like plugs on cars to heat your motor. And I remember going to the airport. I'll never forget. It was a national. So I go to the airport, pick up my car, and there's a plug hanging out. And I said, I think I got a bad car. The wires are hanging out of the car. And he said, what are you talking about? And I said, there's a problem here. There's a wire hanging out of the car. And I'm like, I don't want to take your car. It's got wiring problems. She said, sir, that's to plug your car in. I said, to plug it in for what? So I was like, if it was today, I would say, oh, it's an electric car. It's okay. But I didn't understand what Chinook winds and things. So now I get it. All right. So tell us a little bit. So you went to Tyndale University. You're a theologian.
I am.
How in the world do you go from theology to business, and how does that intertwine?
It's funny. People always ask me that question, and my formal studies is in theology, bachelor's in pastoral theology, master's in divinity, and counseling. And I pastored for about 5 years, grew a church. But what people don't recognize is that there's a connection between business and theology. Theology have you to look deep within and envision a world that's better and build something that's greater than yourself. That's what theology asks you. As an entrepreneur, that's what you're doing. You're looking within, envisioning a world that's greater and building something that's greater than yourself. And you take your whole self to your company. Every facet of yourself you bring to the company. And I truly believe that entrepreneurship, what they're trying to do is trying to make the world a little bit better. They're trying to solve a problem, or there's a service that they're giving to our community, and they're trying to make it a little bit better. And in doing that, they have to understand that all their gifts, all their knowledge, all their spirit has to be in there. And what a lot of business owners don't recognize, they disconnect that. And if they really connect that, then they truly catch lightning in the battle and do the great things. If you look at the Jaws Jobs, if you look at the Gates, if you look at the Musk, that's what they've done. They basically say, find your passion, find your vision, and then it's not work. But to do that,
well, I mean, they say it, Kevin, but listen, Steve Jobs, I've heard stories that he wasn't so nice. You know what I mean? So there's one thing about find your vision, but what about compassion and empathy, right?
Well, I think nowadays that we're recognizing that you can't just have the perfect a-hole that is a genius, that because that model doesn't work anymore. What you have to have, especially with the generation that we have, you really have to have people truly buy into your vision, and people who are like-minded. So I say that there's a tone that you're vibrating on, and not everybody vibrates on that. And if your vision is very clear, you can find the people who are like-minded that vibrates with you. And when you find that, you find lightning in the bottle, and then you move off and you blast off.
Got it.
Yeah.
So, and you know, when you're doing that, do you find yourself, do you ever go into theologian mode when you're with somebody and start, I mean, it would be interesting, right? You're coming up, let me tell you a little story. Let's talk about Luke. You know,
well, the funny thing, Gary, it happens, but it doesn't happen like that. Usually what's happening is once they come, our companies come to us because there's a problem that they're trying to solve, right? Either they're trying to grow, or they're trying to exit, or they have an issue with their employees, something, right? And so they come, that's the symptoms that's happening. And when you dig deeper, usually there is a deeper root that's happening. And when we start working with entrepreneurs and we start digging deeper, it does come out, because you've exited, you've started growing, you've grown fast, growing business. You recognize that yes, AI and quant and all those things are doing, but what you're really fixing or solving is human issues, right? And if you don't have these human issues in there, you're not going to be able to solve those well. So it does come up. So not let me talk to you about loot, but let me talk to you about the principle about sowing and reaping. Let me talk to you about the principle about doing unto others as you would like to be done unto you. Let me talk to you about those principles.
Now, do you ever do that? Have you ever gone down through and let me tell you about it, and talk to people, and you know, and go down through and let me, and it's just fascinating, right? Because it's like, and by the way, not all parts of business are lined up with the Bible, right?
No, not all. But what I can remember a couple of weeks ago, we were working on a large real estate development project, and the real, and you thought, what does real estate has to do with scripture? But the real need that they were trying to fix, we are seeing what's happening in Texas. We're seeing what's happening with our kids, and we recognize there's a shift, there's an issue that's happening here, right? And the issue, what we're finding is that a lot of these kids, they stop teaching character development, right, within school, and so the kids don't feel that there's a place that they belong. And so what happened within that meeting is that the visionary of this, really what he was trying to solve is he's trying to say, listen, I'm an immigrant myself. I have come to this country and I've been wildly successful. And I want to be able to have kids dream again and say, this is what I can do. But you have to touch the heart of that. And the whole meeting turned around that. And it was definitely some biblical, you're right. Not all biblical principles.
I mean, the thing is that I don't know about you. I mean, I grew up in the country in a farm. So, well, actually, we had one school, so the elementary school. We had in each grade, there was one classroom for each grade, right? So it was more like a family, kind of like, I mean, it was way out in the country, way out in the country. So it was kind of like a family kind of situation. And we, honestly, Kevin, we had some very strong values in the country. You know, in those days, you could, if you needed a stick of butter or sugar, you would go to your neighbor. You know what I mean? You would get, and it happened a lot. It was very interesting. You know, we share things a lot. But today, I think with the technology in front of us and the demands that we have, I mean, we didn't know. We got the newspaper, and I remember the knowledge that we would get was from the Encyclopedia Britannica. And that was like your source of information. And if you didn't have the latest one, you were behind the schedule, or Guinness Book of World Records, right? But today, you can get anything you want on your fingertips. You know, it's changed. At the same time, we've got this infobesity where we're inundated with information. I mean, think about it. In your world, Keven, you have about 300,000 items in your personal cloud. The entire web in 1996 was 257,000 websites. You, Keven, have more information in your personal cloud, the entire web. Here's the problem, the trajectory. It's doubling every year.
Yeah.
In 5 years, you're going to have 10 million items. How
Yeah.
many times the last 2 weeks has somebody said, Keven, I sent you a mail. Did you get it? Email. Where'd you send it? I sent it to Yahoo, no Gmail. No, your corporate account. Which one? And so will you send it again? I can't find it. It's like crazy. And so we're inundated with this information. And so, I hear you too. We talk about intelligent assistance with compassion and empathy, kind of like your grandmother, right?
Yeah.
And somebody that loves you unconditionally and takes care of you. And so we need to evolve, right, and look at things less pragmatically, in my opinion. And we need to develop compassionate technology, or nothing good's going to happen.
Yeah, there's a human element that we are a social being, and no matter how complex technology get, we are still a social being. So there, you have to be able to put that back into whatever technology platform. And this is why I try to tell business owners that, listen, what we saw in the pandemic, it accelerated things about 10 to 15 years. And so now most things are going at a technology platform. What I try to mention to business owners is, hey, in the 50s and 60s, the business changed every 20 years. In the 70s and 80s, it was every 10 years. In the early 2000s, it was still about seven years. Now it's rapidly growing. That every
you can be started and out of business in a year. You know what I mean? It can be, and I don't mean because you're not. It's just the market shifts.
Yeah, the shift of the market, the changing, how, as you put, how much things are changing. A business owner right now have so many things that they have to decide, that what they're not understanding is if they don't have a methodology. And we what we say with in our group is, when we talk about value creation is all about transferability. If you can transfer the skills, then you can have that value creation. But in order to do that, you have to understand there's a 4 C's that goes with that. And what we call, you have your customer capital, you have your human capital, right? You have your social capital, right? And then you have your customer capital. If you don't have those things line up and understand how those kind of fill out, and what most business owners don't understand, they look at the numbers of it. But really, what you look at numbers, when you're looking at a value of a business, it really only equates to 20% of the value of the business. 80% of the value of the business goes with those 4 C's that I mentioned to you. So if you don't have those really put together and understand what are the drivers of that, what you're going to happen is, as things are accelerating very fast, you're really just kind of trying to catch on. And you're right, you're out of business before you know it, because things have switched so fast. So what we try to help business owners to do rapid value acceleration is truly get a handle of that, understand where they sit in the marketplace, understand what is the best in class. If I'm in my industry, what is the best in class, and what are they doing that they become best in class? And then start looking in my business and start saying, where do I fall short? And there's a way that you can measure that. Where do I fall short? And then start really putting a strategic plan of how you do that. Once you've done that, then you can start really attack what we call what's happening nowadays. And you see this, Gary. You're very, very good at operational and accelerate. You've been doing this for a while, and you can see that the companies that you take and rapidly grow, there got to be a system and a structure that's there. And if you don't have that, you won't see this happening. What I say to a lot of business owners right now is, there's a tsunami coming, right? And what we look at, the average age of a business owner right now, between 50 and 70, over 80% of the business owners are between 50 and 70, right? And if you look at that, then you can say, how long are you going to be able to do this? So you have to now start thinking about, am I growing transferable skills in my business so that I can make myself less less dependent on me? And if I'm not doing that, then I have to really start taking an inventory of that.
Yeah, no, I got it. So I got a question for you.
Mhm.
How in the world did you go from divinity to director of North American sales for Sagoma Logistics?
So this is a funny story, a very, very funny story. So, and how this happened, my father, my ex-father-in-law, had a transportation logistics business, and I, Gary, sales has been something that I got God gifted you with certain things, and because I empathize with people quite a bit, I find my way to. I don't really sell them. I really try to solve their issues, and by doing that, then it tend to work out. So I worked with my ex-father-in-law company, which was just a transportation company that went back and forth. Went and got my CDL and got my license to drive it back and forth. And I happened to go pick up a delivery one day, and this client, they were trying to, which is Del Monte. They never did international shipping before between Canada and the US. And they had a large contract that came on, which is Wendy's, and they're shipping fruits back between Canada and the US, and they didn't do it before. And they asked, do you know how to do that? Now, I did it once before, right? And they asked me, did you know how to do it? I said, yep, I know how to do it. And they said, can you get this over there with us? And I said, sure, I can get you over there. And I researched, found out what I needed to do, got their first delivery from, it was Massachusetts to Toronto, and I got their first delivery over. And once I did that, they said, wow, they got the larger contract for all of Canada. And they came to me and said, can you help us to do that? Now, at that point, my father-in-law's company could not do that. So I had a friend of mine that had just started a position at Sagoma Logistics. And I said, listen, I have this large client, and they're trying to do this. I don't know how to do this.
Well, you were a salesman right from day one. You gotta hire me. I got the big deal coming in.
Yeah. Yeah. They said, sure, if you can bring this together, we will do that. And that's how I became director of Sagoma Logistics.
That's great. That's been so you did that, and then you went to PLS Transportation, director of sales. And why did you leave? What made you decide? Was it a better opportunity? And
yeah, so PLS actually was a company that I formed, and it came out of Sagoma Logistics. What happened is that,
wait a minute, you formed it and you were the director of sales?
Yeah, I formed it and I demoted myself.
Wow.
And the reason why I did that is because as at Sagoma was in Canada. Del Monte obviously is a large presence here. The opportunity kept on growing with Del Monte, and they've asked, do you have capacity to start working with the US and Mexico? And my answer was yes, but we needed to be in the US. And that's what brought me to the US, right? And once I came to the US, Sagoma and I had a very amicable split. And so I took over the US portion of it. They allowed me to do that, form PLS. But I recognized my ability was not in management, was more in sales, right? So we had other people that came on.
How was that? You were the major shareholder, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So how was that? Like somebody's telling you what to do and you own the company?
Well, I wouldn't say they tell me. What we did was define what necessary needed to be done.
Yeah, but I mean, when something comes up and you don't like it, say, listen, who are you talking to? Come on, you got to tell me the truth of it. Yeah, a little something in the back pocket. You probably went to, and then some people get hired and they didn't know you're the owner. Yeah, like, well, man, I don't like the manager. And they say, well, tell me more. Come on.
And Gary, it worked well because what happened is when I went out to clients, they had no idea I was the owner, so they just kind of talked. So the best way.
Isn't that weird though?
Yeah.
Did you hear like juicy stuff? Like you would never hear if I was the owner of the company, right?
You heard a lot of stuff. I worked for the drivers.
You're the undercover boss.
I went up to the drivers. I would listen. I'm like, yeah, I'm just a sales guy, just trying to get you more business. So
really? Now, how big was that company? What kind of revenue did you have in that company?
So we grew that company from, obviously we came over from Del Monte, and we grew that company in about 3 years. We ended up about $5 to $6 million in revenue. growing. And then 2000 and I moved to the US in 2006, 2007. And then 2008, 2009 would happen. And it was good that I did that because I had a very smart person that operated the business. They looked at all that was coming, the headwinds, and they said, hey Keven, it's better that you sell off the contract. And you are actually acting as a salesperson already. So just kind of move in that way. So that's what I did. I sold it to a larger company, worked as their sales director for a couple of years. And then I got out of the industry completely and got into financial services.
Okay, so then you get into life insurance. So what happened?
Yeah, so what I wanted to do, I wanted to get back into business ownership. But as you know, 2008, 2009, and I just had a divorce. So I had 2 little kids. I became sole custody.
Been there, done it.
Yeah. So and I became my kids. I became a single dad, right? And as a single dad, I wanted flexibility, but unlimited income potential. And I believed in myself that I could go out there and get the necessary sales that need to be done. And so I looked around the industry. I interviewed with Merrill Lynch, with Smith Barney, and I looked at New York Life, and I liked their platform because they had a good teaching. They were able to teach you what needs to be done. And so I went there, and because of my theological background and my logistics background, surprisingly, financial sales is about empathizing with people and then having a strategy to get them to where they want to go, which kind of fits those 2 things. And so I went in, and I was able to start off as a life guy. Then within a year or 2, they noticed my ability. I was hitting what they call President Council, Chairman's Council. I was hitting those marks. Which means that you're the top echelons in sales. And they asked me to become a partner. They asked me about 3 years to become a partner. And in my 4th year there, I finally said yes. And then I became partner of that.
What does that mean? So what's a partner mean? You have
to partner, meaning that in each geographical area, you have a managing partner, and underneath them, you have the partner that helps with mainly what you do is recruit. And you recruit new advisors, and you grow the geo, right? Make sure that geo is grown. And within that time, our team. So my first year I did that, I was top 20 partner within the country. The second year, I was the number 1 in the Southeast, number 2 in the country. And then they're kind of grooming me towards become a managing partner and moving on. And that's when I had the epiphany. I had a couple of my clients that really were trying to exit their company. What really happened, Gary, is that I had a client that, and this is what really touched my heart. He grew his business, and he grew it to about $10 million. Grew it well, and he wanted to exit. And as you said, you go through the VCs. You touch companies before they go to the VC. He went to the VCs, and they saw the company and said, "Hey, all we can offer you for this is $2 million," because he went to them. So you can imagine a guy that's making about $800,000, $900,000 a year. Now he takes it and he saved some money, right? And now he took it to VC, and they're saying $2 million that they will be able to do it. And the reason why is because he didn't put any of the transferable skills that I mentioned to you before. So as they look at the company, although the revenue was great, right? The value was very low, right? It valued very well. And that's why I try to tell entrepreneurs, you focus on revenue, and that's good, but what you really need to focus is on the value of the company. If you drive that, the revenue also will grow, right? And so he didn't have that put in place. And so as a result of that, he couldn't get the proper value of the company. So I didn't know this world. I didn't know mergers, acquisition. Again, you see, I kind of fall into something because there's a problem that I'm trying to solve. I didn't know this world. I knew financial advising because that's what I was doing, and I grew a team for that. But I didn't know the world of mergers and acquisition. But I started seeing what's happening. I did some research, and I really did some research on exiting and what happened. And what I found is that the Small Business Administration did a study and said that roughly 75% of the business owners that exit regret doing it a year after, right? 75%. Then we looked at businesses between $1 million to about $100 million in revenue. What we found is that they had 80% of them did no study, had no transitional plan at all. And I looked at it, and then I also saw that by the year 2035, you're going to have roughly about $30 trillion that needs to be passed from one generation to the next. And I saw this is a big problem. This is an issue, right? And so what we did is that we went out to a couple of friends of mine and colleagues of mine. They were seeing the issue, but they were seeing it from the other end. They were looking at succession from basically how you grow a leader, the corporate way. I was looking at it from the financial, and we got together, put this whole thing together, and that's what ARC Advisory came out. So it really was born out of a need that we saw that was in the community. And then we went ahead and try to solve that need. And that's why I went ahead and got my certified exit planner designation. So now I can really speak to that for business owners.
Oh, that's great. So why did you go to New York Life Securities?
So New York Life Securities is under New York Life. So basically, how is you come in as a life person, then you go to New York Life Security when you start doing more investments. So you get your 7, your 66, you start managing assets. So it's a security portion of that. It's just a natural progression.
Got it. No, that sounds great. So tell me a little bit about, so what kind of companies are you looking for right now? What kind of, what kind of companies are you working with? I know you have, it said you used Korn Ferry, Halogen, Success Factors. You use their some of their strategies, but what's a typical company look like?
So for us, the reason why we are industry agnostic, meaning that we don't try to find an industry. We've worked with a studio, we've worked with developers, we've worked with dentists, we've worked with construction, we worked with a CBD company. So you can see it's all over, right? The typical what you see that's happening with there's a need, and the need bore out of, I'm the owner of the company and I'm tapped out. I've been trying to grow this company for a while, and I go up, I go down, I go up, I go down. Or I'm the owner of the company, and I just can't seem to build the right team around me. I hire the right person, and then something happened. Or I'm the owner of the company, and I can't seem to get the capital that I need to really accelerate my business. And so out of those needs, what we found is that there's typically a underlying issue that's happening, right? And that's what we look at, like I said, the value acceleration model. Yep. We go in and we really do a full diagnosis of the company, and we look and find out what is the underlying issue that's happening. Is it your customer capital? Is it your structural capital? Is it your social capital? Is it your human capital? We start diagnosing, and then we give them a score on what business owners don't do. They don't have a baseline. Like, so you and I, if we're trying to lose weight, we get on a scale and we have a baseline of this is where we are, right? Now I know, okay, I'm 20 pounds over where I need to get to. I have a baseline. Now I can start working towards that. Most business owners don't have that. What the value acceleration model does is give them a baseline. And then once you have a baseline, then we can say, okay, what do you want to work on? So just like your diet, do you want to work on exercising, or do you want to work on diet? But because we know that it's both exercising and diet will help, but you may not do all of it at the same time, right? If you haven't been moving for a while, we may say, let's work on diet, right?
Yeah.
And then we start looking at it. So that's what we do with a business. So let's work on this. And what we do is we do small, because business owners are busy. What we do is small sprint with them. 90 days, let's work on this. And then at the end of that 90-day, we produce it, we got it done. And then we can measure it. And then we can measure the company again and see how healthy the company is now. And we keep on doing that for the business owners. Every 90 days, we do work on something, and then we measure it again to see how healthy is the company now. And then they can see what we call traction. Once they say traction, then a rhythm develop. And once that rhythm develop, now they get unstuck and they start moving. So that's
Oh, wow, that's fantastic. That's incredible. So we're coming to the top of the show, Keven. So how do people get a hold of you if they're interested?
So a big way of getting at us, we have our website is ARC Advisory Co. So www.arcadvisoryco.com. That's arcadvisoryco.com. We have we have something that called quick evaluation that you can go on to just quickly evaluate your company, so you can see what it is. Or you can just reach out and sit down with us. What we try to do, everything starts with a conversation, as you know.
LinkedIn or
LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, we have all of those all at the same handle,
Right.
arcadvisoryco.com. And just reach out to us. And what we do with all businesses, like I said, we did give them, the first is that diagnosis. We call it a trigger event because what it does, it triggers action. You do the diagnosis and then it triggers some action. So that's the first thing that we do is we put that together and then we go from there. So that's how they get hold of us.
That sounds great, Keven. Thanks for taking your time out of your busy schedule to get together with us today. I appreciate it. And to my audience out there, thank you for joining one more time. GSD presents Silicon Valley AI and Tech. And my name is Gary Fowler, and I'm the host. We will be back again next Tuesday for another exciting edition. Stay happy, stay safe, and stay healthy. I'll talk to you soon, and have a nice weekend, everybody. Thanks, Keven. Take care of yourself.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.